Sripada Sharanam Prapadhye, Chapter 38, Explanation of Bagalamukhi Worship. On the way, during our journey to Pitikapuram, we came across a sannyasi. He sat at the foot of an Audambara tree. His eyes were lustrous. While we were approaching him, he asked us whether we were Shankara Bhatt and Dharmagupta. We replied in the affirmative. He asked us to take rest for some time at the foot of the Audambara tree. He asked whether the leather sandals of Sripada Srivallabha were with us. We replied in the affirmative. He further advised that we should give those leather sandals to him in exchange for the gem of the black cobra that he had. We agreed. I asked him, "Sir, ever since I had the intention of writing the divine biography of Sripada, I have been coming across the devotees of Sripada who have been narrating a particular incident that happened in a particular year of Sripada. What might be the reason for this?" The sannyasi said, "Sripada is a combined personification of Adi Bhairavi and Adi Brahma. He is a Kala Bhairava who commands time. He is a personification of time. Kala Purusha is not different from him. He is the form of Mahakala, the great time. He only knows when and what incident should take place. So it is possible for those who are captives of the place and time to figure out the kind of resolve of Sripada. Playing with space and time is like a ball game for him. All living beings, their evolutionary process, the natures of those living beings, their duties, their properties, their results, and their influences are under his control. He can turn a person who is proud that he is a great scholar into an ignorant one within a second. He can turn a great ignoramus into a great scholar, well versed in Vedas and Vedangas. He is a rich yogic incarnation. To be able to recognize him as an incarnated avatar and as verily Lord Datta, huge masses of sins must be burned down and heaps of merit must be accrued. This is the general condition. However, if his mercy and benign looks are showered, he would protect devotees ignoring these common conditions. Each and every moment he revels in divine leelas. For those who study the Charitamrutam of Sripada, an evolutionary program will occur in an orderly way. Therefore, only one or two incidents in a year of his life were informed to you. They were also intimated to you in an orderly manner. All this is an integral part of his divine Leela. It is a mistake to think that he incarnated only for the evolution of the globe. Many crores of universes are created, maintained, and destroyed every moment. The entire evolutionary process of all these remain in his hands at all times. In the depth of his divine eyes, crores and crores of universes develop and get destroyed. This is his real nature, the highest nature, which has no form and which cannot be known in what state it is when it is not expressed, has manifested in a human form in Pitikapuram. This itself is a great miracle. After incarnating, where is the end of his Leelas? Even the Vedas remain silent, unable to describe him. His knowledge is infinite. The knowledge of the Vedas is limited. His power is infinite. His grace is infinite. He is present in all places and at all times. He is truth unto truth, wisdom unto wisdom, infinity unto infinity, which is much beyond reach. The worship of Bagalamukhi. In fact, I am a resident of Bengal. I am a devotee of Bagalamukhi. She is one among the 10 Mahavidyas. Those who want the destruction of enemies at the individual level worship Bagalamukhi. The power of destruction of Parameshwara in its comprehensive form is also Bagalamukhi. By the worship of Bagalamukhi, the perfection of speech can be achieved. It means that whosoever leads a righteous life and observes the unity of mind, speech, and action, whichever word they speak will come true. There are 4 types of speech: para, pashyanti, madhyama, and vaikhari. In Satyayuga, a terrible storm devastating the whole world broke out. Lord Vishnu, seeing the plight of the living beings, became sad. When he undertook penance, goddess Sri Vidya Mahadevi emerged in the form of Bagalamukhi. She appeared before Sriman Narayana, Lord Vishnu, and pacified the storm which was causing destruction. Some people consider her as Vaishnavi Devi, personified Shakti of Vishnu. She was born during the midnight hours of Chaturdasi on a Tuesday. She is the personification of the power of immobilization. The solar system is stable only on account of her. Heaven is also kept in its place in the same way. She can grant comforts of this world as well as the other world. She obstructs any evil forces that attempt to create chaos in the life of the spiritual seeker. Similarly, she immobilizes the blind and dark forces and grants protection to ensure the progress of the aspirant. She is also called Badabamukhi, Jatavedamukhi, Ulkamukhi, Jwalamukhi, and Bruhadbhanumukhi. In fact, Lord Brahma is the foremost one who practiced Bagala Mahavidya. Lord Brahma saw this Mahadevi in the form of Bala Venkateshwara in Tirumala and adored her. He worshipped the goddess as Sri Venkateshwara with his consort Sri Padmavati and started the Brahmotsavam celebrations. Lord Brahma taught this Mahavidya to Sanaka and other sages. Vishnu is among those who worship Bagalamukhi. Parashurama, sixth avatar of Vishnu, also worshipped this goddess. In my pilgrimages, I came to Pitikapuram. I visited the Sri Kukuteshwara temple. Then I saw a charming young boy. The boy said to me, I know that you have come from Bengal. For a very long time until recently, I was imprisoned in this temple under the name Swayambhu Datta. I was very much suffocated. I felt terribly sultry. So I requested the priest to render me services which make me cool. They refused it. I said that I will go out because there was no other alternative. They said that instead of my going out, they would drive me out. Therefore, I came out a short while ago. I understood the inner meaning of his words. I understood that he was verily Lord Datta himself, and that worship and devotional services were not properly offered to him with due care and diligence. It was also clear that since he did never observe untouchability, and as an orthodox Brahmins did not allow untouchables into the temple, he incarnated to personally save miserable, oppressed, and distressed ones. I requested him to give me the darshan in the form of my devotional deity and gratify me. The Supreme Lord smiled. I saw the great goddess Sri Bagalamukhi. These physical eyes cannot see such great brilliance. I fainted. Some kind people who were there arranged a carpet beneath a tree and laid me down on it. In reality, I did not faint. He gave an experience of supreme bliss. I enjoyed the divine happiness for 8 days. My heartbeat and pulse stopped. People did not understand my situation. The account of the sannyasi. My episode created an uproar in Pitikapuram. Rumors spread that some Brahmin sannyasi entered the Sri Kukuteshwara temple and visited the self-manifested Datta. The rumor mentioned that he was a mean magician who tried to employ the witchcraft on Kukuteshwara and the self-manifested Datta. But on account of the rigorous disciplined conduct and regulations of the priest, the power of Kukuteshwara and the self-existence Datta did not dwindle, and from the negative results that followed, the sannyasi fainted and lied without pulse and heartbeat. Rumors generally spread widely very quickly in Pitikapuram. People in Pitikapuram were great experts in commenting truth as untruth and untruth as truth and make others believe them. Sripada Srivallabha, who incarnated amidst them, was much more dexterous than all of them. All the happenings here gave great entertainment for him. He is the one who rejoices eternally as a divine revealer. The importance of priest enhanced in Pitikapuram. The word traveled that by their discipline and austerity, a black magician fainted and remained like a corpse. It was said that by taking the help of the priest, all afflictions would be removed, and that by performing special pujas through them, much greater welfare would be accumulated. Pujas were commenced by the priest. Liberal monetary gifts were given to the Brahmins. Suddenly, a worry started among the priests. They were worshipping with great exertion the idols of the self-manifest Datta and Kukuteshwara. As a result, they were getting various kinds of food donations and generous monetary donations. They were saving this money in the boxes in their houses, but to their horror, they found that in the next morning it had vanished. Since they agreed to conduct the worships, they had to perform them compulsorily daily. But the money earned was disappearing. Not only that, even though plenty of food donations were given and even though they ate in great quantities, they were feeling weak and exhausted. It was quite strange that they became weak and that their money kept disappearing. If they were to disclose the truth about these happenings, they would have to face embarrassing situations, since it was widely propagated that the priests were great experts in mantra and tantra shastras. If the fact that they were subjected to the influence of Yakshinis are female nature spirits who are sometimes mischievous, were to be known to others. It would damage their honor. Therefore, the Brahmins kept these matters to themselves and did not reveal them to anyone. They decided to know whether the fainted sannyasi was alive or dead and to cremate him if he was dead. They placed this matter before Sri Bapanarya. Then Sri Bapanarya examined the body of the sannyasi and announced that the sannyasi neither died nor fainted, but he was in a state of samadhi. Some people thought that if the body of the sannyasi was cremated without caring for the word of Sri Bapanarya, then the evil effect of the Yakshini would be eradicated. Some others said that if he were to be cremated, the powers of the sannyasi would violently flourish and would create many more calamities. My body was not cremated only on account of the peculiar resolve of Sripada. After 8 days, I became normal. Sripada, with his divine auspicious hands, touched my head. None of the Brahmins gave me alms. Boarding and lodging were provided to me in Sri Pitikapuram in the house of some shepherds. Since I did not follow caste restrictions, all the shepherds became friends with me. Among those shepherds, there was a woman named Lakshmi. Her husband used to treat her with great love. He was not only the chief of all those shepherds, but was also acting as a judge to settle disputes in that caste. Though young, since he was educated, he used to read property documents, make allotments as written in those documents, and used to attend to the drafting of matters relating to the lands. Therefore, even though he was young, his caste people elected him as their chief. His wife Lakshmi was a devoted wife. Unfortunately, she became a widow 4 or 5 years ago. Since I knew the greatness of Sripada, I told Lakshmi that she would be benefited if she had some relationship with Sripada. In the meantime, the cow in the house of Sri Venkatappaya Sresti stopped giving milk. So Lakshmi used to bring milk to the house of Sri Sresti. Sripada used to come often to the house of Sri Sresti. Even before his asking, "Grandmother, I am hungry," Venkata Subbamamba used to heat the milk and give it to Sripada. In addition, she used to give cream and butter. Whenever Lakshmi brought milk to the house of Sri Sresti, Sripada used to say that he was very hungry. Venkata Subbamamba asked Lakshmi to bring some more milk. If Lakshmi were to bring some more milk to Sri Sresti's house, the milk in her house would get depleted and she would need to drink watery buttermilk. Even then, Lakshmi, who had the spirit of sacrifice, was selling to the house of Sri Sresti the milk that she kept for drinking and other consumption. The story of a Purana Pandit. In the meantime, a Pandit who was conducting discourses on the Puranas came to the town. The Brahmins in Sri Pitikapuram said that the Puranas were meant for Shudras and not for superior Brahmins like them, and that they already knew all the Puranas. Sri Bapanarya, Sri Sresti, and Sri Varma offered to give some money to the Pandit. It was agreed that all Shudras in the town could attend the Pandit's discourses on the Puranas. Not only that, it was announced through the beat of the drum that Shudras could give monetary offerings to the Puranic Pandit. Some among the Brahmins suggested that half of the amount given by the Shudras to the Pandit should be credited to the council of Brahmins and the remaining half could be taken by the Pandit. For that, Sri Bapanarya rebuked them by saying, "This is called bigoted begging from the beggar. You said that you would not even listen to the Puranas. On the other hand, you are trying to snatch away the hard earned money of the Pandit who is taking the trouble of giving the discourses. If you do not change your behavior or the way of thinking, you will have to experience severe punishments from the Kala Purusha in the future." Meals for the Pandit were arranged in the house of Sri Bapanarya. Lakshmi used to give him boiled milk before the commencement of the Puranic discourses. After drinking the milk, he used to start the discourse on the Puranas. Sripada Srivallabha resides in the hearts of all, so there is nothing that is not known to him. The Pandit was a great Gnani and a great yogi. With his yogic power, he found the other forms assumed by his soul. He attracted the consciousness in those forms into himself. He then found his soul was in the form of an infant aged 4 months in the house of a Brahmin zamindar. While Lakshmi was giving milk to him, he saw her with yogic vision and came to know that his soul will be the husband of Lakshmi in her next birth. It means that the above infant form will be the husband of Lakshmi in her next birth. All the masculine forms of his Atma were already merged in the Pandit, who was their essential basic nature. When he searched with his yogic insight for his Shakti forms, he understood that Lakshmi was the essential basic nature of all his feminine forms. He also noticed that all his feminine natures were already merged in Lakshmi. He felt that if his 4 months infant form, after living for few more months, were to come to an end, then any of his remaining karma would come to an end. He came to Pitikapuram as a Pandit to fulfill his karma bonds with Pitikapuram. Lakshmi was very fond of her husband. She understood that the consciousness of her husband could not leave his old body. She found many a time that the form of her husband stood by her side. People donate cows to cross the Viraja river in Brahmaloka, the highest heaven. She knew that the cow who took her husband safely across the Viraja river took birth again as a cow on earth. She knew this because she saw the cow. The all-knowing Sripada very well knew that the consciousness of the husband of Lakshmi who crossed the Viraja river remained merged in the Pandit, who was the basic essential nature of the former. However, the Pandit came to Pitikapuram with a decision to fulfill his karmic bonds of indebtedness, to liquidate the karmas of the other forms of his soul through his yogic strength, and to merge with the Almighty. If the Pandit were to merge with the Almighty, then the infant of the Brahmin Zamindar would also die. If it were to happen like that, then Lakshmi in her next birth would have to live and die as a virgin, since that Brahmin boy who would have been her husband in that birth would have already died preceding her birth. Lakshmi had an intense desire to have a next birth. Therefore, after the fall of this mortal body and after she regains the state of consciousness, she would be born in a virtuous Brahmin family. Her husband, who was the infant of the Jamindar, must grow up to be an adult. Alas, Lakshmi was innocent. Without being aware of it, she was conducting Ardhanarishwara Yoga. All this was the Leela of Sripada. The drama called Discourse of the Puranas concluded. The Pandit accepted monetary gifts from the Shudras. Lakshmi was born in the Shudra caste. Since the Pandit accepted the connection with the Shudras, he thought that his bonds of karma with the Shudras were redeemed. He wanted to burn away any remaining bonds of karma through the fire of yoga. Since he took meals in the house of Sri Bapanarya, he felt that his bond of indebtedness relating to his Brahmin birth would be redeemed. Sri Bapanarya went inside his house to bring the monetary honorarium to that great yogi. In the meantime, Lakshmi came to the house of Sri Bapanarya. A cow in the house of Lakshmi delivered a calf. She brought milk from that cow to Sri Bapanarya's house for the preparation of a special cheese. Lakshmi had great devotion and care for Sri Pada. Sri Bapanarya gave the honorarium to the Pandit. The Pandit sought permission to leave. Sri Pada said, "All the people gave permission for you to leave. Only two persons refused to give you permission to leave. I am well versed in the accounts of the traders. Unless a final settlement of the outstanding debt and its repayment, you cannot leave Pitikapuram." The Brahmin was agitated. He heard previously that Sripada Srivallabha was an incarnation of Datta. Sripada said, "My dear, this Lakshmi is innocent. She will live only for few more years. What should become of her after death? You were born as a Brahmin with your form of wisdom, and as a shepherd who was Lakshmi's husband with your form of ignorance. Lakshmi had shared happiness and misery with you in that shepherd form. The consciousness within you in that shepherd form, which had crossed the Viraja river along with the cow, returned freely again to the earth. This lady retained the consciousness of her husband with her intense fire of love. This consciousness, which is in the form of a shepherdess, will change after a few years, following the demise of her body into a Brahmin consciousness. She is a Brahmin in the shape of a shepherdess. You are a shepherd in the shape of a Brahmin. I know very well about your karmic relationships. I am the personification of Padmavati Devi, and I bless this lady who will be taking birth in the future as a Brahmin lady by putting a golden mark on her forehead. I also created a Mangalya, sacred thread of marriage for her, and preserved it in Hiranyaloka. When the connection with gold is snapped, the connection of the wife with her husband will also be snapped. Therefore, I safely preserved her golden auspicious wedding ornaments in Hiranyaloka. When your consciousness, which is at present encased in an infant of a few months, is withdrawn, any demon may take possession of the body and do bad deeds. So do not redeem the debt of the karma relation with her. Instead, take a donation of gold from this woman and retain the bond of karma with her. In the next birth, you will live as an ideal couple and will become my devotees and will be liberated." Saying so, Sripada blessed them. "My dear children, the Brahmin infant will grow up. Lakshmi will take birth in a Brahmin family and will become his wife. The Leelas of Sripada are indeed wonderful. Sripada Rajam Sharanam Prapadhye.